right, first off, Merry Christmas. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Christmas holiday. Yeah, I guess it's early for me here. We're having a Greek-themed Christmas. The last couple Christmases, we've done Italian Christmas. One of those, we actually had an elaborate murder mystery type thing. Everyone dressed up real fancy. We made some very delicious Italian food. This year it's Greek, so I have some slow-cooked chicken going. It's for, I guess it's a sort of a chicken souvlaki for pitas and all that. And we're going to have a bunch of good food. So I hope you're all having a lovely Christmas with good food and friends and family. I wanted to talk about Rebel Moon. Rebel Moon, the newest movie from Zack Snyder. It's a big space opera on Netflix now. Basically, it's a PG-13 Star Wars with the plot of Seven Samurai mixed in with lots of other famous stories. You get a little bit of Harry Potter. You get a little bit of Dune. You get just a little bit of everything. Snyder has gone real derivative here. I liked this movie a lot more than I thought I would, which isn't to say it's a really good movie or anything. I think it's in my written review. I said it's like having a fast food cheeseburger. Like, it's not a bad burger. It's just nothing special. It's not really unique or new or different, but it hits the spot. And this, for me, Rebel Moon hit that, I guess that space opera spot. It scratched that itch. I love space opera. Ever since I saw the first Star Wars movie, I've loved everything in that vein. I was a fan of John Carter when that came out, and that was a huge flop for Disney at the time. But personally, I would have loved to see more Princess of Mars stuff. I love that we're getting actually good Dune adaptations with the second part coming out next year. And honestly, with Star Wars having been overall a massive disappointment lately, with an incoherent sequel trilogy, really mixed bag stuff when it comes to the other spin-off movies and shows. With that being such a disappointment, I'm always rooting for the next big sort of space opera sci-fi epic, either series or movies or whatever. And on some levels, Snyder delivers. It's an interesting world he's created, even though it's derivative. Like I enjoy sort of the big space Nazi empire thing, and that the rebels having to fight against that. And I don't think we've developed the characters a lot, but I like the characters for what they are so far. I think the script is pretty weak, and it doesn't give the actors a lot to work with. And I think it's unfortunate that one of the more likable characters ends up dead by the end of the movie. I don't really want to spoil too much of the movie, but it is basically the first part of a two-part movie duo. I don't know. When I wrote about this, I said it should be a trilogy. I think it would give the story more room to breathe. I think the first movie, part one, has tons of pacing issues, and I think that if it had been a trilogy, that those pacing issues could have been addressed. Because the first movie is spent mostly like establishing, sort of stage setting the conflict, which is this big space empire wants the food from this village on this planet Velt, and they're going to fight back. And so they go gathering heroes, and the main character, Cora, is sort of like, she's like an ex-high-ranking officer in the Imperium or whatever. So they go off to find some rebel fighters to help fight off this Admiral Atticus Noble and his dreadnought ship. And it doesn't... There's problems with pacing and there's problems with scale, right? Like, if this had been a space opera where there was like a space pirate coming to the village and they needed to fight off the pirate, then gathering half a dozen like super fighters and a couple squadrons of rebels might have worked, but fighting off this like basically the brunt of the entire Imperial army with like this handful of fighters seems ludicrous and totally impossible. So that's the scale problem here, Other than that, I think Snyder is too indulgent and also doesn't really make the movie he fully wants to make. And it's a weird paradox, but he's so indulgent in his stylistic choices. The constant use of slow motion is almost laughable at times. I don't mind some slow motion here and there, but it can't be this constant. Like, truly, Snyder needs to move away from this weird gimmick, because it feels gimmicky. You can put in a couple cool slow motion moments and they'll stand out. If you do it over and over and over again, it starts to become kind of a joke. But at the same time, I wish that instead of a PG-13 movie that Netflix made him make, he had been able to make the R-rated movie that this movie clearly wants to be. R-rated Star Wars would have been just better. Bloodier, maybe some nudity, just a little bit of like an edgier, grimmer take on Star Wars is exactly something I would love to see. This only tiptoes in that direction rather than like, you know, they toss in the word bitch a couple times. Like, no, that's not that interesting. Then it just feels like it's trying too hard. Like, let's actually have a dark Star Wars with real bloody violence, and that's not what we get here. I suppose we'll get it with the director's cut. There's some weird plot holes and inconsistencies. The heroes, they're betrayed at one point and captured. The means by which they escape is ludicrous. I won't spoil it, but the person who frees them would have no idea how to do that, the thing that he does to free them, and it ends up just being like a head scratcher. I like the villains. I like the backstory stuff. The world building's cool. Cinematography and special effects are cool. Costume design's cool. I think the music is maybe one of the least good parts. I mean, it's not bad. It's fully capable. But there's nothing like, there's no catchy Star Wars theme, right, to really draw us in. So overall, I think my expectations were very, very low, and I enjoyed the movie more than I thought I would. I actually think I've enjoyed it more than any Snyder movie in a long time. I like that it's not a superhero movie. I like that it's not. I did not like his Army of the Dead movie at all. Well, I mean, there were things I liked about it, but I thought it was really unsatisfying. This one, you know, I guess maybe it's a genre thing. There's not as much space opera out there as there is zombie stuff. But I want to see the second one. I want to find out what happens. I want to know more about the backstory with the princess. And overall, you know, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I just thought it was a movie that could have been a lot better, but boy, it could have been a lot worse also. It's not any worse, I think, than the sequel trilogy of Star Wars movies. I mean, at least this one seems to have a plan. It definitely has that weird, like I said earlier, a pacing issue with like they're gathering up these heroes and they sort of like go from place to place and hero to hero so fast that you don't really get a sense of who these characters are or where they are. And I wish there was more time to fully explore that. But the Star Wars sequels have the same problem in that they bounce from planet to planet and place to place so quickly you never get a sense of place in those either. Even Rogue One, which I really liked, you never get a sense like you do of like Dagobah or Tatooine or whatever. Overall, watchable. I think maybe a 6 out of 10, 3 or maybe a little higher, maybe 3 out of 5. How do you even rank these things? A watchable movie, I would watch it again if someone was like, hey, you want to watch Rebel Moon with me? I would watch it again. It's not one of those movies where I'm like, oh my God, never again. It's not a movie that I'm like excitedly telling everyone to watch, like the Dungeons & Dragons movie earlier this year, which still is my favorite movie of the year. That I'd watch over and over again. If someone was like, rang on my doorbell and was like, hey, do you have a copy of the Dungeons & Dragons movie and would you watch it with me? I'd be like, all right, let's do it. But Rebel Moon, yeah, I'd watch it maybe one more time before the second one comes out next year. So overall, some pacing issues, some character development issues, too much slow-mo, should have been a 3-part trilogy rather than a 2-part duo movie, such an awkward number for movies. But enjoyable, watchable, entertaining, absolutely. So I would recommend watching this movie. Just don't go in it like expecting, you know, Empire Strikes Back or something, or Dune. It's not on that level. But it's fun. It's a fun movie. So, final note. Comic relief. God damn it, Snyder. Zack Snyder, listen to me. Comic relief is so important. It's important because it helps us bond with the characters. If we find a character funny and we see the characters, you know, having those funny, endearing moments, we care about the characters, which gives us, you know, once we care about something, there's more tension. We worry that they're going to get hurt or killed or whatever. So we need to have that humor to draw us in and give those characters and the world and their story more life. That's one of the huge problems with most Snyder films is the lack of comic relief and that sort of like lightness that adds flavor and caring to the story. So anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Merry Christmas. Peace.